Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today I have Emma from Los Social. That's a digital and marketing communications company. Hi, Emma. Lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining me today. So today we're going to talk about the ethics of your business, but more importantly, the consumer and how they see brands and businesses today and what they can look for in this really busy climate. You know, we're all jostling for attention. So you also get great skills, knowledge. Over to you. Tell us a bit more about your business.
Yes, so thanks for having me, Zoe. So Lost Social is my sort of micro agency, and I work with small businesses and medium-sized businesses to help them kind of create a meaningful connection with their ideal customer. And usually that's through creating a killer content strategy. That's how I normally talk about it. So pinpointing exactly who they're trying to speak to, and then from that working out how best to reach them. So that's kind of at a macro level how I work with a lot of businesses.
Great. And obviously you have very key values and ethics yourself. So would you like to tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, so I mean, I've been doing sort of media and advertising and marketing for about 20 years now, and my business is 4 years old. So for a long time before that, I was working in the corporate world for a lot of big broadcasters and publishers, and I had a fantastic time. But what I found working in the content space was that quite a lot of the time I did have to kind of waive my moral rights. And as big businesses, we were kind of expected to work with any advertiser and every brand that approached us for ideas. And actually, when I set up my own agency, I felt quite passionately that I wouldn't have to waive those moral rights. And what I really wanted to do was focus on people that had shared values that were quite aligned with how I kind of want to do business. So for me, like authenticity is a huge value because I feel I think it's really important to be yourself in marketing. And obviously, if you're producing a brand, that's slightly different. But a big part of the business owner should actually be within that brand and their brand values. So I think that we should all behave authentically in business. We should all try and be the person that we really feel we are, and enable our values to come across. And I also really believe in transparency. So I think from a price point of view, I've always liked to be really transparent with a lot of my clients so they know exactly what they're paying for. And in terms of the work that I'm going to do for them as well, because I've got quite a flexible approach. So it's very much sort of a partnership and building a relationship with my clients.
It's really interesting you say that, actually, because a lot of people I'm talking to say the same thing. Myself included, we've all had experience with big companies, corporations, retailers, and there were not the values and ethics back in the day. We're talking, 20 years ago for me, but and that really just didn't sit well with me. And now I have running my own business, I feel the same. I've got my own set of values and ethics, and I'm not going to waver from them, even with the cost of living crisis that's coming in, and putting more pressure on me, especially, and yourself and the business I'm dealing with. But it's so nice to be able to stick to those core values. So I hear that from you, I hear that from other people, and it's just really refreshing. And I think this is why it's so good for the consumer to say, look, you've really got to keep buying into small businesses, because if they're transparent, then they are doing what they say they do. And like you say, there's so much greenwashing going on with those big corporations and companies, and it's hard to tell. It's hard to figure out who's actually who's doing the right thing. And that's why the Ethical Consumer magazine is really good, because they list the companies and what they're doing, and they're as transparent as they can be. So bearing that in mind, then, with the consumer, like coming to small scale businesses and figuring out, who's ethical, what should I buy, when you've got the businesses coming to you and saying, I need help with my marketing, if they're struggling, what can you offer them if they're struggling in this kind of cost of living crisis?
Well, I mean, I started my business in 2019, so pre-pandemic.
Okay. Yeah.
But even then, it was a real sort of driver for me that I wanted to make sure that everything I did was accessibly priced, because I'd seen a lot of people kind of start up a marketing company, and as they grow, they obviously want bigger clients, and the smaller clients that haven't necessarily got the big budgets almost fall off the end. But I was really motivated not to let that happen. So as my business is growing, I'm making sure that I've always got a few packages that are really accessible for people that haven't necessarily got the big dollar. And obviously now is testament to that, because I've created a few more packages actually. And going into the pandemic, it's obviously a similar kind of time in terms of people's disposable incomes being affected.
Mm,
I found that loads of people want to slice their marketing budget off because it's the
mm,
fluffy part, it's the thing
mm.
that, you know,
First
you
thing that
feel
goes,
like.
yeah.
But in pre-pandemic world, a lot of companies had to really invest in digital because that's where a lot of people were still spending their money.
Yeah.
And I had a few clients that wouldn't be able to afford me to manage their marketing or their social media full time, but they still wanted to access my service because I managed to create some really accessibly priced training where I could show people how to just utilize digital marketing in general, how to create great content themselves rather than investing in branding agencies to do it. And it worked so well. And I feel very proud in the fact that I was able to be really flexible quite quickly
Mm,
and offer them that service. And that's something that will always be part of my brand values, is
mm,
very much about, I want local businesses to succeed. I think it's hugely beneficial to our local economy.
mhm.
It does fill you with pride, especially because a lot of smaller businesses have definitely got like a community interest angle or a social enterprise angle. So they're constantly contributing to society. So yeah, I think that's something that will always be a big part of what I do.
Yeah, great. Well, I wanted to say that I was looking at your website, and I've obviously met you on a business to business level. We're also friends, but I just find that your website is just really warm, and it's beautifully branded. It's really clear. But I find, like you're saying, sometimes when you get bigger, the company itself gets bigger, it loses touch and it doesn't offer enough warmth and enough kind of one-to-one personal service, but you do. And I really love that about your branding, and I love that about your personal approach. So what I wanted to also say was, or to ask you rather, have you got any advice for the consumer then? You know, when they're looking at all these small businesses, how can they tell what to buy, what's ethical, what should they be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because I think it can be quite overwhelming, can't it? And there's a lot of businesses, I mean, we were talking about greenwashing. There's
Yeah.
bigger businesses telling you that something's been ethically sourced when in actual fact it's not much better than the version before. So there is a lot of that going on. I think obviously as a first stop, look at the certification labels because they're very
Absolutely.
thorough in terms of what brands need to do.
Yeah.
But I think also be open to looking at their story, their brand story. If a business is telling you why they're driven to do what they're doing, how
Mm.
they've actually gone about it, the research that's gone into it. I mean, I know from speaking to you over the years, you've put such a lot of research into your building your business because it's something that you're really passionate about. You want to do it properly.
Yeah.
If people are jumping on the bandwagon, that's not going to be there. And it's quite, again, going back to the authenticity and the transparency,
Yeah.
quite easy to tell whether someone's doing it because they feel like it's a great opportunity or because they really, really care about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think at first glance it can look lovely. They all look great, but actually when you start to spend a bit more time looking at the stories or the Instagram posts, the Facebook posts, and the volume of information behind it, you can then tell absolutely who's putting the kind of key effort in and actually is passionate about the product they're selling or the service or just the information they're giving versus someone that's just sticking up really beautiful pictures. And yeah, there's quite a
Exactly.
big difference. Oh, that's really, really useful information. And I just want to say for anyone that's watching, apologies, the internet just dropped out for like a second or two. So I hope you managed to get the whole flow of the conversation there. But that was great. Really good chatting to you, Emma. Thank you so much for coming on today and being part of the Ethical Consumer Week.
Thank you
So
very much for having me.
if anybody is in Leigh-on-sea or even further afield and they want to have a look at Emma's website, it's
UK.
lostsocial.co.uk. And there's lots more videos to look at for the Ethical Consumer Week as well. So thanks for watching. Cheers.